Lynette Beans, good afternoon. Annette Baird, hi Annette. Jennifer Nicholas, good afternoon. Karen Spooner. Pamela Moses, good afternoon to you. Carol Boyce John 123, greetings. Rena Jennings, hi Rena. Donald Walcott, good afternoon to you. J Dimple 66. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, J Dimple. Some people tell me they're not getting they don't get the notification. Don't understand why. Rogers, good afternoon. Brian Batiste, Patricia Reed, Petal Dawn Hinkson, good afternoon to all of you. Ann Niles, Fitzroy Bailey, good afternoon. My apologies, Lynette. I was supposed to have started the live earlier and then I got thrown off a little bit, so I thought I'd just jump on for a short bit because I have a sports day to attend as MP. So let me see here. Carib View 101, Angela Carty, Earl Turpin, Sarah Richards, good afternoon. Marva James, Margaret Thomas, Donna Seeley, greetings, Jamal Alexander, Patsy Austin. So good afternoon to all of you and happy Independence. Well, we're still celebrating Independence Day. Yeah, so Diane Charles, hi Diane. Patsy Austin. So greetings to all of you. And again, my apologies for interrupting your cricket, but thank goodness that you have the option. You could always go back and look at the live after the cricket. Yeah, so so just a couple of things that I wanted to touch on quickly, because as somebody pointed out to me, Claire Carrington, so many things to talk about. You just don't have time to touch on anyone in particular, because as soon as something pops up, this government has mastered the art of coming up with distractions. So you don't get to ventilate on one issue before something else pops up that you have to talk about. So some things happened last week that he did mention that stood out for me. All right. First of all, let's talk about yesterday's Day of National Prayer and reflection, right, and fasting and so on, that the government recommended, as opposed to the traditional Independence Day parade, because they said intelligence agencies would have informed them that it was not a good idea to host the parade and have all of these dignitaries in one place, given the potential threats that presented itself. And so the members of the public were advised to have a day of prayer. And there was some prayer event that was arranged by, I think, the state, which was held at the Diwali Nagar site. Now, that was the first mistake that you made, right? Because you must understand, if that's the venue that you chose, immediately you would alienate some people. Let's face facts. There are a lot of people who belong to the Christian faith who would not have gone to the Diwali Nagar site, notwithstanding the purpose of the event, because they don't support, they don't necessarily support the Hindu faith, right? So they would not go there under any circumstance. And this government seems to have a problem with doing things in a neutral manner. Okay? So they had that event yesterday, and it's been reported that the Prime Minister was absent. And as a matter of fact, no member of our government showed up at their own event, their event. So clearly they weren't while they were encouraging the nation to engage in prayer and fasting and introspection, they weren't inclined to do the same, right? Or at least to join the nation in doing the very same thing that they suggested that you engage in. They had other things to do, according to the de facto Prime Minister, Barry Padarath. They have things to do in their constituency, and who were attending Ganesh Utsav and all of these different things, right? So it wasn't important for them to attend. What kind of excuses they're making for why the Prime Minister was not there? And while they were too busy yesterday, today they're not busy because I'm seeing photos and videos of several ministers right now attending the cricket down at the Brian Lara Stadium, taking in the cricket. So their day of prayer and introspection and fasting wasn't important enough for them to take time out of their busy day. But today they have time to attend cricket. Right? So the Prime Minister threw out a challenge to the PNM. Well, since all they want parade and all they want fireworks, well, host it. Why don't you host it? Take all your PNM money and host it in this disrespectful way. So the PNM party itself would have had an event on Saturday called For the Love of Liberty, which was hosted at the Port of Spain City Hall, in front of the City Hall. So it was a cultural event where you had different performances and so on. We had some pan and all of that. National flags were given out, and there was a walk around Woodford Square and back in front of City Hall. It was a very nice event. It was such a fanfare and stuff. It had a decent turnout. Could have been better, but it had a decent turnout nonetheless. And the people who were there, who I spoke to, were very happy and appreciative of the event. And I think it continued into yesterday. There was pan on the avenue, and the mayor of Port of Spain would have had some other events for the children and so on, Bouncy Castle and all of these different things. So it had stuff for everybody. And then the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation, which is part PNM, part UNC, last evening would have hosted an event, as they do every year, at the Etihad grounds, which was well attended. I'm sure many of you have seen videos, you've seen photographs and footage of the event. I was there, and it was very well attended. There was a large crowd, again, appreciative of the event. There was some fireworks, only 5 minutes, unfortunately, because, again, the government indicated that if you wanted to have the normal fireworks, the loud fireworks, you had to seek permission. And whereas my understanding is that normally that permission would have been granted, I think, by the chief fire officer or something of the sort, you now had to, all such requests has to now go to the Minister of Homeland Security for him to give the approval. So if you had the same people who used to accuse the last administration of being dictatorial, and we were under dictatorship, and Rowley was a dictator, you had no instance where a minister would take onto himself the responsibility to be giving permission. So he's a UNC minister, but if a PNM person or a PNM corporation had requested to have normal fireworks, could we assume that he would just sign off on it? What was the reason for that? That you decided to take a responsibility that is normally the remit of one of your subordinates. Right? So they're just doing whatever it is they want. Yeah, but the PNM was the dictatorship, right? So ministers calling the shots now, taking responsibilities from subordinates and giving it to themselves. So there was the quiet fireworks, but what I was informed, the reason why it was only 5 minutes is because 5 minutes of silent fireworks cost the same as I think it's 45 minutes of the normal loud fireworks. So it's very expensive. So they could have only afforded so much. Now, Anel Roberts decided on Saturday to go down. I guess maybe he was just passing by the event or by the venue or whatever. I understand he was there last year too. So he decided to go on Saturday and take a video of the grounds of the event, and then did his doubles and coffee to talk about PNM spending a certain money for PNM VIPs to come and sit down and eat and drink and all of that and fed. While the national security apparatus would have indicated that there was a threat to having a gathering of all these different people and so on and whatnot. And that the corporation took taxpayers' money to host the event. Again, if he had attended last night, he would have heard the long list read out on numerous occasions of corporate sponsors who would have supported the event, who sponsored the event. So you had people like Courts, and I think I heard Massey and quite a few, ADM, Arima Discount Mart, and you had a number of big corporate entities that supported the event, gave sponsorship, and would have assisted in underwriting the cost associated so that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago could enjoy a little bit of what they've grown accustomed to over the years, right? Which was denied them by the government, who claims that first it was security threat intelligence suggests that you shouldn't have it, and then we heard it's about saving money and the millions that would be saved because the government would have spent money on fireworks and the parade and all of these different things and so on. I wonder how much that day of prayer, fasting, and the like, how much that cost taxpayers. But I want to tell Anil Roberts and the rest of them, some of these sycophantic supporters of the UNC who keep talking this thing about taxpayers' money, and it's taxpayers' money. And what they always know all the better things that the money could have purchased, that they could have buy. According to Mr. Roberts, how many school bags that money could have buy, and sneakers and textbooks and so on that money could have purchased. How many school bags and sneakers and textbooks, the $34 million that you gave to Mr. Adolphus Daniel, when you took him to meet Larry Hawaii, then Minister of Finance, and introduced him to Mr. Hawaii and introduced the live sport program, right? And then we saw after that where the cost of that enterprise went from $12 million to $34 million. And the contract was written up exactly in the same manner as the proposal from eBeam, owned by Mr. Daniel. No changes. So what was previously proposed at 12 million ballooned to 34 million. Absolutely no change, not a comma, not a full stop, nothing. How many sneakers and school bags and school books could that have purchased, Mr. Roberts? The $58 million that was spent on catering on the live sport, how many school bags and school books and sneakers could that $58 million have paid for? The millions that were paid to Dustbin Divers, one of the companies that benefited from the live sport program. How many school books, school bags, sneakers could that money have purchased? How many laptops could that have purchased? The $400 million that you all wasted on live sport, the $70 million that you spent on Hoop of Life, the $10 million that was given to Shaquille O'Neal to lift up Kamala so that she could dunk a ball. How many school books, school bags, and so on could that have purchased? Did you think about that when you were the Minister of Sport? Wonder. But all of a sudden, you know how to manage taxpayers' money. All of a sudden, you are concerned about taxpayers' money, but you had no such concern between 2010 to 2014 when you were the Minister of Sports. Right? What a tangled web. So when I see this clown looking to instigate nonsense, but I could tell him two things. One, last night, I am certain there were UNC supporters at that event as well. And two, I'm sure there were a lot of taxpayers who were present at that event. I am one of those taxpayers, and I had no problem with my tax dollars being spent to host an event so that citizens of Trinidad and Tobago could have a little bit of enjoyment for their independence, since you all took away the main event that most people tend to look forward to, whether they go in person or they look at it on television, as I would normally do. Right? Yes, they were there. So those taxpayers who were there had no problem with their tax dollars, their hard-earned tax dollars being spent on an event which they could bring their family to and enjoy, because there were a lot of children there too. From early, they enjoyed the fireworks and all of that, all of the entertainment and so on. There was an area for children as well, slides and swings and all of that. So people came and they had a very good time. Took me a little while to get to the venue because the traffic was so thick that I had to, on 3 occasions, I had to try a different route until the final route I was able to get into the venue. But it was well attended, and that's the thing that hurt you all your big toe. That there were so many people who turned up at what you all dub a PNM event. Are you concerned? Since you all dubbed it a PNM event. Because, when I went in, there were people who I saw going in, and I didn't see anybody say, let me see a party card. I didn't hear anybody asking anybody coming in, who you vote for on April 28th. So how you all determined that it was a PNM event and it's for PNM supporters is beyond me. Because again, as I said, I'm certain there were people there, a lot of people there, who don't support the PNM. And they didn't see it as a PNM event. They saw it as a national event being hosted by a state entity, the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation, and they came out in their numbers. And that's what all they can't take. Because every event, all they only sending your spies to look, see, go and see how much people, go, so we could say, when it says a week, I was looking like a week and nobody didn't turn up and nobody want to hear the PNM and nobody don't care about the PNM. Really? Well, I don't call an election now and see. Test the waters now. Why don't do it? You know, I wouldn't do it, but do it. But as he said, there's an election coming up soon, which is the local government election, and he wants you to remember last night's event. I hope everybody there who's eligible to vote, who attended last night, that you all, when local government election comes, that you remember which entity would have been able to assist you all in, at least having some level of enjoyment, right? Because the ministers were having a good time. Saw video footage, they have money. You want to save money. But the cricket match the other night, see them up in the is it the Paria or the Heritage box in the Brian Lara Stadium? Entertainment, yes, they had big DJ and all kind of thing, live entertainment. See some video footage. You see all the ministers up inside here with their entourage, food and drink galore, all kind of premium liquors and best food and live entertainment. All they come upstairs, and let me have a time. Well, they don't need to sit downstairs there with them plebs. You could walk around like de facto Prime Minister Padarat and his sidekick, the Member of Parliament for Barataria San Juan. You could go and shake hands and take some pictures and the like, but then come upstairs and eat, drink, and have a good time and leave the plebs and them downstairs with their coolers. The video footage is there to see, right? But they don't have money, but they have money for that. Because every time they have an event like that, I told you all when we had the Emancipation procession on August 1st, which culminated in the Queen's Park Savannah. Right? They went upstairs in the VIP. And again, if you see food and drink, premium liquor, all their activists and them from on social media who work with them, they tell them, come upstairs, come and eat and drink and like yourself now, man. How many times, how often do you get this opportunity? But they have money. The same money that they're spending on food and drink and premium drink, some of these CPAP workers catching their royal school opening next week. Right? All your fire people. And the audacity, and these people have audacity and temerity, This wannabe MP, well, he's an MP, but not elected, Philip Edward Alexander, right? Shadowing Stuart Young. Everything Stuart Young do, he trying to do it better. No ingenuity, no originality. Right? He just trying to show up Stuart Young. So all the time, since they fired the CPAP workers, Stuart has been giving out hampers. If you go on his Facebook page, you will see numerous hampers that he's been giving out to assist. Now, he doesn't have the prime ministerial salary of $87,000 a month to be able to give out more. So he gives what he can from what he does have. Right? So all those of you who will be begrudging him getting the prime ministerial salary because you just couldn't stomach or fathom the idea that Stuart Young was prime minister for one day. Man was prime minister for a month and a half. But he was prime minister for one day. And why he should get all of that money? Yeah? Well, some of the struggling people, some of the unemployed people who are today unemployed because of the current administration would have benefited from that. Yeah? It wasn't a selfish thing. But we saw. So Mr. Man, Edward Alexander won. They decided to use Napa yesterday. Not yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? Use Napa, right? State premises to engage in raw, naked politicking. Did they pay a fee for that? Because most events that are held at Napa, unless it's a state event, you have to pay. And I think even when the state has events there, they probably have to pay too. So my question is, did Mr. Alexander pay to use Napa to have his school book drive or whatever it is where they were giving out school bags and snacks and the like? And he beat in the chest, boasting, as a shadow MP, look at all these people that he helping, and they were so happy to see so many people come out and that they were able to assist. I mean, seriously, you all take away the people's jobs. You took away the ability to be able to buy the very things that you were giving away on Saturday, right? And then you beat in your chest and say, well, look how many people came and how many people we were able to help. You make the people destitute. You took away their livelihood. You brought them to that situation where you took away their dignity as well. And then you want to, and this is the problem that I have with these people. The people had to come there because they were desperate. They were in need. Okay? Again, because of the actions of this wicked, heartless government that up to now still can't give the people a timeline. So I am being asked. I went to an event on Saturday as well, where one of my counselors, she too had a book drive, and she invited me to pass through and meet with some of the kids and all of that. And several parents, when she introduced me as the MP, several parents came to me asking me, well, you know, when what going on with CPAP and when they're going on, when the CPAP program coming back on stream. I said, well, I really don't know. And I don't even think the government knows either. And I wonder if it is they even interested in bringing that back on right now. So one parent, one mother, she told me she was working as a cleaner at ETech, and they recently changed, this new government changed the cleaning company. And so she lost her job. Her husband was working CPAP, so he lost his job. And they have 3 children of school age. So now they're getting by. She tries to sell food on a weekend and so on. But she said, it's been tough because she can only do so much. And sales have been very, very slow. And the husband, he tries to get little odd jobs, cutting yards, doing private jobs, cutting people's grass and so on when he can. But it is very, very tough for them. And so she wanted to know if I could help her in any way to find a job. She's willing to take any job that she can get, because right now things real tough. But she and her husband have found themselves in this situation, right? But 3 kids are sent to school, so she showed up there on Saturday, hoping to be able to get a book bag, book bags for her children and some stationery supplies or whatever it is she could get. But she's not from my constituency. She came all the way from Sangre Grande, because I haven't seen Mr. Sturge do anything in his constituency. And we would have read recently that since he became MP, he's only had office days twice in the last just over 4 months, 2 office days. So his constituents who gave him their vote can't even come to see him for assistance, right? We even had people reaching out to me from Cuba, because they would have seen my Facebook page, my Member of Parliament Facebook page, where we would have highlighted some photos of us distributing school bags and so on. And people reaching out to me from as far as Cuba, asking if they could benefit. Why are you all not going by Jolene John? Why are you not going by Padarath? That's two of the most powerful ministers. If anything, they should be giving out the most amount of school bags. So people from Cuba should have no reason to want to come all the way to Malabar Mausika for assistance. 2 ministers. Your MPs are government ministers and powerful ministers at that. I do like to turn away people, but as I said, you have to take care of the people from Malabar Mausika first. And if we have any excess, we will assist other persons, which we have done. But that's the situation right now. Right? I know Balize House has something where they would have sent out an email to us requesting that we encourage for the parents from the constituency to send the book lists to Balize House. But it's a first come, first serve, because, again, limited resources. So we've been able to help some persons in that way. So you either send that email your book list, or send it via WhatsApp, the WhatsApp number, and Balize House will try and organize by the end of this week for those persons. Right? So that is also in train. So while they're all up, taking care of the business, and they don't have time with the small man, but Mr. Alexander beating his chest. Look how much people we helping. You help. They need help because you put them in that position to need help. And then you're so shameless. You all come in with your camera and all of these things. Your camera and so on. And running footage showing the people's face. Allow the people their dignity now. You all put them in this position. You rob them of their dignity, but what little they have left, don't put them through that where they're all over social media and everybody had to see, hey, but look, I see so and so stand up in the line there. She going to get school bag for the children. They have no money. The same thing, I get very upset every time I see the Ministry of Social Development, Vandana Mohit, highlighting, putting up videos and putting up pictures of people receiving various grants. The people applied for the grant in confidentiality. When they were filling out the form, they didn't go outside and say, hey, neighbor, look, I'm filling out a grant. I'm filling out a form here to get a grant to fix my roof, right? Or filling out a form here to get a grant to fix my house. Hey, look, neighbor, I'm filling out a form here, applying for a food card. I'm pretty sure they didn't go out on the street and walk around the neighborhood and hire one of those cars with the mega horns to tell the whole neighborhood that they're applying for a grant. They didn't. So why put them in that position where when they are successful and they get through the grant, you want them to come down to your office for a big photo op and showing the people's face and posting them all over social media for everybody to see that, hey, they get through with a grant, right? Allow the people their dignity. Not the whole world don't need to know that they got help from the government, but they don't care because for everything for them is about showmanship. That's all it's about. Everything, a camera. They can't do nothing unless there's a camera crew somewhere about to take pictures or to take video. So they jumping out the back of the Prado or the whatever, the Fortuna, or whatever big vehicle. As I told you all, Michelle Benjamin has now become an actress. Go on the Ministry of Culture. Ministry of Culture website, yeah. Not website, their Facebook page. She decided to go to Barbados for Carry Festa as well. She needed to be part of the contingent. And just on the same day as they were about to leave, apparently the flight was delayed. And the plan was for she and her contingent to get back to Trinidad in time to go down to the Brian Lara Stadium to take in the cricket. But they had time for their prayer and all of that. They had time for that, but they had time for cricket. So she in Barbados and make plans as soon as she touched down, according to her, head down to the Brian Lara Stadium so she could join up with the crew upstairs in the VIP, where all the drinks and best food and live entertainment was, so they could take in the cricket. After them, even studying no cricket, they just went there for the food and drink, right? And the live entertainment at your taxpayer expense. But all of a sudden, she's discovered her talents as an actress. So it's all kind of skits and so on that she involved in. Go on their Facebook page and you will see. I played one for you all when I did the last live with her and Junior Lee and the skit in her office and so on. So if you see, she did one where she spoke about the contingent that the governments and the largest, Trinidad and Tobago had the largest contingent of representatives at Carry Festa of any other Caribbean nation. We had the largest. They're happy to boast about that, you know. We don't have money. They can't afford to pay. They're paying people's salaries late. We don't have money for CPAP workers, we don't have money for URP, we don't have money for this, that, the other, and the next. But you had money to send a whole contingent to Barbados for Carry Festa, to boast that you send the largest. And all of these people, you had to pay for hotel accommodation. They had to get their per diem. You know, they're spending money. They're spending money because they're representing Trinidad and Tobago. I think the government said, we have money, but they had money for that. I see in people who I see on Facebook, social media, if you want to call them influencers or whatever it is. I saw one woman who from Siparia who she does cooking on chulhas on Facebook. I see her jumping up in the mix too. So like they just went all over the place and they just went on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and we be sending everybody, invite everybody, just tell everybody to come. All of them. We're looking to buy influencers and also tell all of them, and they had a good time. When I see my girl, if you see she with she flag jumping up in front, dancing to Marshalls, we deserve a party. I say, what? And then they pan the crowd, and I see more influencers and more. I see, but that's where taxpayers' money going. So Mr. Roberts had a problem with the event that was held last night. No per diem had to be paid to the people who came, right? Paid for entertainment to set up. It was sponsored in large measure, and people came and had a good time. But he has no problem with the state using money to send social media influencers as part of Trinidad and Tobago's contingent to Barbados for Carry Festa. To serve what purpose? To serve what purpose? Were they part of a skit? Did they perform? Because this lady who cooking on the chula, I don't know what she carried to Barbados. Right? Did she carry a chula to Barbados to show them how to cook on the chula? How to make roti on the chula? I don't know. But she was there. among others. But priorities. So meanwhile, we have money for that. You have people struggling, don't know where the next meal coming from, don't know how they're sending children to school come next Monday. They don't have money for passage, right? They don't have money to buy books. Fortunately, we were able to help with our book drive. Some people passed through and were able to get books, and we were very, very happy for that. But I could tell you that when school opens next week, you will have a lot of children who will not be attending school on Monday, probably for all of next week, as the parents try to see how they could get money to send them to school. Still trying to scramble to see who still have back to school drive and so on, that they could pick up something. And we still have people reaching out to us for help. But that's their priority. And then I looked at the list of so-called sponsors for Mr. Alexander's back to school book drive or whatever it is. And I'm seeing certain names there. One in particular, I think one of the most prominent, probably the first or second name on the list. They didn't put the man full name, but right, he is one of the leading gun shop owners in this country, and is sponsoring these government MPs initiatives. Let us not forget that the government intends to bring legislation. They have said they will be bringing legislation very soon to make it easier for law-abiding citizens to purchase firearms. Now, to the best of my knowledge, we don't have that many firearms dealers in this country because the average citizen can't afford to buy a gun. So at this time, I imagine that it is not a very, unless you're bringing in guns to the state, that business, and given how difficult it is to get a FUL and the amount of time that it takes, I imagine that business wouldn't be a very thriving one. So it's not something that every Tom, Dick, Harry, Jenny, and Jane would want to get into, because you're going to have a lot of inventory on your hands. But this particular individual, whose name has featured prominently in the news from time to time, was one of the sponsors. Does he have a vested interest under this law that is supposed to come? Because once that law is passed and it becomes easier for law-abiding citizens to acquire firearms, of course there's going to be an increase in sales. Notwithstanding the fact that his wife, a prominent attorney, would have indicated in a newspaper interview some time ago that guns, well, I suppose at their business establishment, starts at $7,500 and goes all the way up to $40,000 for a gun. Okay? So, I don't know, well, no CPAP worker could afford that. No URP worker, no forestry worker could afford that. So, unless the government plans to offer incentives by way of subsidizing the purchase of a gun, or something of this sort. And people had to go to the bank to take loans, probably to buy a gun. I'm just asking, but this particular individual, conflict of interest? And they don't care. They just don't care. Conflict of interest or not. To hell with that. So, okay. So they bold and big, you put up the man name. And he was one of the sponsors. Well, you put some money now and you get money later on down the road. You know, a little incentive for the government. Remember me, eh? Remember I sponsor something, so they need to bring that legislation to help out my business. Just say. But of course, the supporters see nothing wrong in that. And even if they do see anything wrong in it, rather than call it out, you know, they'll say, but the PNM do this and the PNM do that. Well, the PNM is no longer in office. You all voted out the PNM because you didn't like that. You didn't like that the PNM was supposedly doing some of these things. So it can't be that it was wrong and reprehensible and egregious when the PNM was in power, but now your party is in power and senior members of your government may be engaging in certain things. And it's okay, because why? The PNM did it. So PNM people should hush. Well, it was for the last 10 years. Last 10 years, all they didn't have no voice. All of a sudden, all they find all their voice now. So PNM supporters should just sit down and say nothing, right? Did you all sit down and say nothing for the last 10 years? Or is it that you all plan to get pipped for the next 5? I just asking the question, right? Just out of curiosity, I want to. I see they calling me already. Oh gosh, I'll give me a little chance. Give me a little chance. So let me see how many things I could run through. I feel I might have to do another live during this week. I saw a news source. Now, just to make the point, right? So all of these ministers are in one place. I don't think the prime minister is at the cricket. People are speculating that perhaps she's still aching from that unfortunate fall that she suffered last week. And while sometimes when you fall, it's the after. It takes a little while for it to set in, but then you just feel the aches and pains creeping in. Yeah. So some people are saying, well, even though she made a good show of it and she got up right after and she was able to continue to participate in the event and she spoke and whatnot and all of that. So a lot of her supporters jump in and say, yeah, look at, you see, they say she weak and thing, but look, she fall long and she get up strong and nothing wrong with her. But Stuart Young, when he fall long and he damage his hand and all kind of stupidness. Because apparently there's only one way to fall. That's donkey logic, aka UNC logic. That when you fall down, everybody falls the same way. So the damage sustained or damage that you don't sustain is the same. So apparently, Stuart Young fell down the same way as Kamala, but his bones brittle. So he get damaged, but she's strong. 73 years old, heading for 74, and she's strong and no damage because she was able to get up because all falls are the same. UNC logic. Okay? All right. But all of them in the cricket today, they're not no security concerns. They're not concerned about if you have all of these people in one place. Yeah, because guess what? I saw a picture with Justice Frank C. Prasad posing with Khadija Amin. Yes. So you had government members were there, members of the judiciary were there, all of them in the same space. Remember, that's what they tell us, it's not safe. The intelligence says it is not safe to have all of these senior officials and dignitaries in one place. But they were in one place in the Brian Lara Cricket Stadium, the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. They were there. Yeah, so that space safe. But the Queen's Park Savannah, no, I wasn't safe. Where you had police, army, you name it, all different members from the regiment and so on, from all of the different security arms would have been present in the Savannah for about what, an hour or 2 hours, if so much. No, that wasn't safe. But the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, the stadium, oh yes, that's safe. So all you come now. All the judges, all you come. Members of parliament come, all you members of the opposition, everybody come through. It's safe. Yeah. And the supporters clapping like some circus seals. Yeah, yeah. And supporting that foolishness. They bought into that. Well, Tunapuna Regional Corporation had the event last night. It went off without a hitch. It was a success. And guess what? No rocket launchers, no grenades, nobody got shot, nobody was maimed, nobody get killed. Everybody came out there in the spirit of what it was. They enjoyed themselves, they eat, they drink, they had a good time, and then they went back home without incident. And I'm certain that if they had the parade yesterday, it would have gone off without incident. So certain communities, I saw Belmont had a little something. I saw this video going on with the fire services playing Take Me Home. Commendations to them. Interestingly, as I told you all, the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation comprises of PNM and UNC councillors. Not one UNC councillor showed up last night. None. But Khadija only messaging certain councillors to find out how it's going. It still go. They still have entertainers. Every minute, the councillor came to me. He said every minute, Shoni asking, Shoni messaging, what going on? How it going? Wanted to come, but couldn't. Because all of them afraid they lost their work. However, look, if after you criticized this event, and so the PNM take taxpayers' money to host it, that the UNC Minister of Rural Development and Local Government showed up, or the UNC councillors showed up. All of them want to make sure that come 2027, they get the opportunity to run for their districts again. So they're not going to defy. They're not going to do anything to embarrass their leader. Right? DEAR, their leader. So they didn't show up. Unpatriotic louts. Couldn't show up for that. But they don't in Brian Lara. Show up. That they could show up for. Couldn't even go down for their prayer and so on. Yeah. But they want to come, but can't. But the PNM was a dictatorship. Rowley was a dictator. If Rowley dictating the peace, who really dictating the peace now? But as councillors, you all can't even come to an event being hosted by the very corporation of which you are a part. You are a part of the executive and you could not attend? Really? The Arima Borough Corporation, which is under the PNM, they also had an event last night too at the Arima Velodrome. I understand it was well attended as well. And they too had a fair offering of various styles of entertainment. I saw parang and all kind of thing took place there. So kudos. Also the San Fernando City Corporation, again, under the control of the PNM, they too, under Mayor Robert Paris, they too had events for their Burgesses as well to enjoy. And from all reports, it was well attended and appreciated by the citizens. So when your government don't want to do it, when central government takes it from you, local government will still ensure. Can't say the same about UNC corporations, control corporations. Can't say that. All right, but anyway. So I was making the point, let me see here. Where is it? Where is it? All right, I'll either save that one. So let me get this here. So where is it? Wait. Right. So I'm seeing that news source, Rhoda Barrett, is reporting that the Couva Children's Hospital is supposed to be closed. After they make a big hullabaloo that Rowley and the PNM closed the, this is the, let me just get this here, right? This is the picture of Justice C. Prasad and Khadija Amin. Okay? Justice C. Prasad ought to know better. People, there's already talk in the public domain that you are a UNC sympathizer, right? Rumored, it is rumored. It is alleged. Why would you want to put yourself in that position? To say, well, I was just there and I took a picture. And Khadija, that's fine, man. She decided to take a picture. I'm not thinking, well, if I post this, people might say, so let me not post it. But common sense is not so common for these folks. All right? So Justice C. Prasad for allowing himself to be photographed with the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, UNC, and Khadija for posting it. Right? Optics, Justice C. Prasad. Justice must not only seen to be done. Okay? So do better than that now. Is controversy alike? Behave yourself. Just say, no, I don't think you should, People are here talking to them or whatever it is. Have some sense now. Hey, but then when people talk about claiming the judiciary is compromised, always put yourself in that. Put your foot in your mouth. Right, so this is what I saw yesterday. Couva Hospital closing, question mark. The controversial Couva Hospital is being closed. Nurses stationed at the hospital have been told that they are to be sent to either the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex or the Arima Hospital. No reason has been given to them for their transferal or the hospital's closure. All equipment and records at the hospital are already packed up and ready for transferal to their new homes. So this is being reported by News Source, all right? And she usually has her sources. I don't know if it's true, but I mean, it's been 4 months since this administration has come into office. That was one of their big issues on the campaign trail, accusing the former administration of not opening the hospital because they were wicked and spiteful and so on. And it's because of the UNC built the hospital and where it was located. 4 months on, we've heard nothing further about that. We know they've sought to implement some of their campaign promises, repeal of the TTRA being among them. First thing they did, the amendments to the Children's Life Fund Act. So they've done that, but with respect to the Couva Children's Hospital, nothing has been said further about that. They made a big hullabaloo about the DB campus. Again, nothing further about that either. So we would have seen where E.D. Stewart of the Registered Nurses Association would have indicated there's no need for that hospital, that they don't have sufficient staff, nurses, and so on for these hospitals, for this hospital. But so we will see. I've not seen any denial so far from anybody in the government that is not true. So, they will just hush them out and pass it off. So, what's the time there? Oh, Lord. First Citizens Board blocks forced resignation of CEO. So this was the next fiasco that occurred last week, right? And it was a lot of back and forth because the CEO said she didn't resign, the minister said she resigned, and she asked him to clear the air and to correct the record. She did not resign, and she's retired. She had retired 2 years ago, and she was asked to hold on and the like. And so there's a whole bacchanal with respect to that. A new board has been appointed, but not yet ratified, because First Citizens, of course, is a publicly listed company, and there's process and procedure under the Companies Act as to how that changeout must take place and certain requirements that must be met. So there must be an AGM, and then the representatives of state would be voted onto the board. But it's a fait accompli because the government owns the majority stake in First Citizens Bank, and so therefore they would have their way. So we see Mr. Shankar Bidesi has been appointed to be the new chairman of First Citizens Bank. Mr. Bidesi is also the chairman of UDCOT. As I told you all before, there are still a number of boards to be appointed. So in the absence of qualified people, there seems to be a reversal of policy from 2010 to 2015, where they chastised the PNM, talking about under Manning, you had people serving on several different boards, one person serving on multiple boards, but under them that would not happen. Well, and the result, what was the result of that? They couldn't find qualified people, and we ended up with the the false papers crew, because certain boards require certain specific professional qualifications to serve on the board. And persons who did not have these qualifications, it was reported, would have doctored their qualifications, whether it be their certificates and so on, claiming that they had the requisite skills, professional skill sets to serve in these positions, which they didn't. Right? And several boards, prominent boards, in fact. If I recall, the general manager of TNTech at the time, one Mr. Khan, I think it was one of those persons who was identified as not being qualified. There was also a position on a judge who was appointed to the industrial court bench, who also did not satisfy the qualifications required. And that was just a couple of examples of what took place. That I kept telling you all before the election, there were people lining up who want to be on this board and that board. And I told you that because the UNC has a shortage of qualified people to serve on these boards, that when they used up the qualified people, they would have to scrape the bottom of the barrel, right? They would have to excavate and dredge the lagoon to be able to find people. And so now we see them putting people who, housewife and all kind of thing on state boards, who have no qualifications with respect to the boards that they are serving on. But they accuse the last administration of putting square pegs in round holes. But as I told you all, now they put in hexagonal pegs in triangular holes. That's what they're doing. So Mr. Bidesi, he's now chairing two boards, and these are two top-tiered boards. So the monthly fee that he will be collecting is tippy top, right up there, because you have it's A, B, and C boards, and I think both of those are A boards. So his director fee as the chairman, he getting the highest fee. And they still have a number of other boards to populate as well. So don't be surprised if you hear Mr. Bidesi's name is called a couple more times. One wonders, doesn't Mr. Bidesi have a day job? I think he's an attorney at law, so he has no clients to service, that he has the time on his hands to serve as chairman of all of these boards. Okay. But again, the supporters of the UNC have nothing to say about that. But my concern with this development with Ms. Bidesi, you all will recall between 2020 in the general election of 2020, one of the campaign manifesto promises that the UNC had made, and one that Mrs. Prasad Bisasa herself placed significant emphasis on, was the creation of a National Infrastructure Development Fund to use this fund and to leverage the proceeds in that fund to be able to pave roads and all of these different things. And two of the areas that were identified, memory serves me, as three, was the idle cash balances in UTC, NIB, FCB, right? And people ask, what the hell are you talking about idle cash balances? What is that? And you say, well, no, that is money that is just there, that the bank just have sit down and they're doing nothing with it. But these entities they just have it sit down there in an account and it's not really earning no certain interest and they have no use for it at the moment. So we could take that and put it in a fund and leverage it to create this National Infrastructure Development Fund. And that was one of the things that caused them to lose the elections in 2020 because people were concerned about the little kakada that they saved over the years in the unit trust. People were concerned that after all of these years making their contributions to the NIB, that their pensions would be in jeopardy and that the other benefits that NIB offer would also be in jeopardy. People weren't willing to take that risk. Well, now you have put them in office, those of you who decided to stay away from the polls, and so we see the machinations, the maneuvering that now taking place in First Citizens Bank, among others. Coincidental that just mere days after the Prime Minister on a Monday Night Forum platform would have called out FCB and called out Republic Bank, that we see Ms. Dabisi found herself in this situation. And the board, which was led by one Mr. Smart, who was appointed by the same Kamala Persad administration in 2014, Mr. Anthony Smart, he was chairman. They appointed him chairman of FCB in 2014 and the PNM kept him. You see, that's the difference, because the PNM is not about get rid of everybody because they perceive to be UNC. No, they see people as citizens first, and you have the competence, you have the skills, and whether you support UNC, PNM, ILP, NTA, or whoever, as a citizen, you have the skill set that we need. Come and serve on the board. And that is just one example. I think the last chairman of NP, can't remember his name, was also UNC, but the PNM put him, right? Because the PNM recognizes competence and skill set. And they are not about, as Mr. David Naked is advocating, fire everybody who is supporting PNM. So anybody working in the public sector who is PNM, get rid of them. And he has an issue with any UNC person who is inclined to keep PNM people employed for the state. Because apparently, state resources belongs to the UNC when they're in power. So get rid of all PNM people and only give positions to UNC. Whether they qualified or not, give it to them. Right? So it says the government last week attempted to pressure, they said, pressure the group CEO of majority state-owned First Citizens Bank, Karen Dabisi, to resign immediately, a move that was repudiated by the board of the bank, which agreed to allow her to take her accumulated vacation leave from August 21st and to retire from First Citizens on October 21st. Government's attempt to force Dabisi's immediate resignation included leaking an erroneous story to the Newsday that the government had accepted her letter of resignation and circulating a fake WhatsApp message that her retirement on October 21st was not due to external pressure, regulatory issues, or financial factors. This is your government that is supposed to uphold the law, the Constitution and the law. These people took an oath. When they became ministers, they took an oath to uphold, they swore by Almighty God, who swear by the Constitution, who swear by the Gita, who swear by the Holy Bible, to uphold the Constitution and the law, to conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of their ability carry out their duties on which they are about to enter without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. But apparently, they forgot that. Or they just said it, but they had no meaning. So then what is the point of taking an oath? It goes on to say, so here it is that you have this article is stating that the government attempted to force Dabisi to resign, that the government circulated, that they circulated a letter, leaked an erroneous story to the newspaper. So, right, subterfuge, dishonesty, all of these things your government is being accused of, and then circulating a fake WhatsApp message that her retirement on October 31st was not due to external pressure, regulatory issues, or financial factors. You see the extent that your government is accused, the things that they are accused of in the space of 4 months. And if they could go to such an extent to something that to me is pretty minor in the grand scheme of things, it causes you for pause. What else would they do? What else would they do? What are their limits? Your government is accused. The last administration was never accused of things like this. It goes on. Sources told Guardian Media that last Tuesday, the ABC wrote to Corporation Seoul, Minister of Finance Devendranath Thakur, and copied Minister of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development and Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Kennedy Swarat Singh. A source external to the bank said that ABC's letter to the ministers indicated that her retirement date was in May 2026, but that she was prepared to demit office as CEO of TNT's second largest bank before that, if the terms of her contract of employment were honored. In response to the ABC's letter, Swarat Singh wrote her last Wednesday, stating, following guidance from the Attorney General, on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, main shareholder and Corporation Seoul, I accept your letter of resignation from First Citizens. We undertake to view favorably the following matters set out in your letter. 1, salary. 2, bank vehicle benefit. 3, pension benefits. Further, we undertake to take advice from the Attorney General with respect to annual flexible spending allowance bonus. Several sources told Guardian Media that ABC's letter of August 19 included no reference to her resignation from the bank. But Hatchetman Swarat Singh responded accepting her letter of resignation. So apparently he don't know the difference between resignation and retirement. Right? I know some people make the mistake. They say, well, I resign. You know when I resign, but they really mean when they retire. Apparently, Honorable Swarat Singh, Minister Swarat Singh, seems to be having similar issues in differentiating between the two. But I wonder if they're going to offer her as generous a package, separation package, as they did her predecessor, Mr. Larry Hawaii, who would have walked away, as you all have heard me say on numerous occasions, with at least $11.625 million, more than what he was entitled to. More than what he was entitled to. But the board at that time, headed by one Nairi Afonso, indicated, well, you know, yes, you're not entitled to so much, but the package that we're offering him is to serve as an incentive for others who may come after him to give as much to the bank as he would have. Well, Ms. Dabesi gave several years because was she his, right? Yeah. I think after Mr. Hawaii, it was Mr. Nath. And then when Mr. Nath left, Ronald Nath, I think was his name, then Ms. Dabesi came on board. So she gave a number of years of her professional life to the bank. So I wonder if they're going to be as generous to her as they were to Mr. Hawaii. But there is precedent. So if they want to stiffer Ms. Dabesi or Mrs. Dabesi, there is precedent. Right? There is precedent. So I know you're not going to allow them to give you no pittance. Because when this same Prime Minister was in office last time, she showed that her administration had the capacity to be very generous when it comes to departing First Citizen CEOs, right? So you have precedent that you could look to when they decide to give you whatever they intend to give you. But the bigger issue here for me is the extent to which these people would go to sully people's professional reputations. We saw it with Mr. Halliday, all right? The former chief executive officer of WASA, who was fired, summarily dismissed by this administration, first thing as they came in. And we had the no lesser person than his boss, the Minister of Public Utilities, describing Mr. Halliday as a failed CEO. A failed CEO. His words. No regard, no care for how such a characterization coming from the Minister of Public Utilities with respect to the man's performance as a failed CEO. And I made the point before, Mr. Halliday is not an old man. Mr. Halliday is not on the cusp of retirement. He left his good job where he was for some 7 years in Barbados, leading their water authority, to come to Trinidad and Tobago to provide the same service that the Barbados people had confidence in him, right? Came here to do that and only spent a few months here. And then you had this pickup side that calls itself a government coming into office and fire the man. But it wasn't just enough to tell him, okay, thank you very much for your service. No, you had to add insult to injury by referring to him publicly as a failed CEO. And I made the point before that if Mr. Halliday now has to go and look for a job elsewhere, and potential future employers decide to look him up on the internet, they are likely to come across this article where his last employer would have described him as a failed CEO. So now he has to answer. And now you have them coming here to sully Mrs. Darby's reputation. Same thing they did with Central Bank Governor Alvin Hilaire. So he had their backside in court for almost $10 million. That is what they do. You see, they've now gotten rid of the general manager for TN Tech. But I continue. That's not one. Reason for pressure to resign. No, before I go there, that's no. In his August 20th letter to Dabisi, Swarat Singh also told her, as indicated to you, our position regarding your final working day has changed. You are now to proceed on paid vacation leave with immediate effect rather than on September 1st, 2025, as discussed. So we ain't giving you time to pack up your office, to pack up your personal effects, put them in the box and make the proverbial, I forget what it's called, that work. All right? Let give a immediate effect. Boss it. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, do not come to work tomorrow. All right? Proceed on immediate leave. According to a pre-action protocol letter issued by attorneys for dismissed Central Bank Governor Alvin Hilaire, Swarat Singh visited Hilaire's office on June 24th, 2025, indicating that government wanted the governor to leave the post and it would be prepared to pay Hilaire in full for the remainder of his term if he were to resign immediately. Again, do not pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to jail. Later that day, Hilaire received a document from President Christine Kangaloo that his appointment had been revoked. Contacted by WhatsApp for comment on Friday and Saturday, Swarat Singh said he was aware of her alleged resignation because he was copied on it. After he was in a position to share the allegations that were made against RBC, Swarat Singh said, I have no idea what you are referring to. Guardian Media understands that one of the reasons the government wanted RBC to resign immediately was because it claimed the bank had provided former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley with preferential access to foreign exchange. That allegation was first raised by Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Daryl Alaha, in his July 1st contribution to the mid-year budget debate. In his contribution, much of which comprised complaints about first citizens, so it seems that Mr. Alaha might have a personal axe to grind. Alaha said the PNM government has for the last 10 years left the commercial banks alone to brutalize poor people, while enabling friends and family and financiers to access foreign exchange and to navigate the banking system and the cream of our economic system with ease. We are left to feel the pain of the ordinary person and the inconvenience that they suffer because of this abject stupidity. Here they said, because of this abject stupidity of commercial bankers and the preferential treatment they choose to give to big clients where they put the big boys first. He then said someone had given him an email, but he did not know the origin of the communication. Alaha said it is an email to somebody called Karen Dabisi, in which a high public official is saying, please do a letter for PM to purchase US dollars to pay these 3 invoices, and he needs to have payment made tomorrow, no later, and is waiting for a letter to confirm instructions now. So you have a government minister going into the parliament and putting on Hansard that he is calling and referring to career bankers using terms that the ordinary man suffers from the abject stupidity of commercial bankers. I am pretty sure Karen Dabisi is far more qualified than Mr. Alaha. Who is he? What is his claim to fame? Where Kamala find he? Where she find he? Where he come from? That all of a sudden he is this big expert on banking matters. These clowns who have no idea how banking works. As a former banker, I understand how it works. And these challenges with respect to Forex are not new. But these allegations that he wants to come and make that these bankers were given preferential treatment with respect to Forex, the PNM bigwigs and the like. In 2010 to 2015, when the then central bank governor, appointed by them, decided to change the Forex distribution methodology and started giving out licenses, dealers' license, Forex dealers' licenses to Tom, Dick, Harry, Jenny, and Jane. Because you say, it was confined to a certain group of people, the banks and certain finance houses, and you wanted to open it up. But nobody knew who these new Forex players were, who these new dealers were. So you're given license, look at license, you could sell foreign exchange, you could sell, and this license now entitles you to apply for and get a quota of Forex from the central bank. But when you get it, the average citizen don't know who you are. They don't know that you're dealing in Forex. So they're not coming to you. They're still going to the traditional entities like the banks and certain finance houses who they're accustomed to. And meanwhile, you who holding this license and could now apply to get a piece of the Forex pie, when you get it, nobody else don't know that you get, right? Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows you're a Forex dealer. So you could pick up the phone and call someone. So, hey, I get US pie. How much you want? Yeah, you don't worry. You just tell me what you want, and I will request it for you. We just go. Yeah, it's not every and anybody we giving Forex to, we have a specialist. You want any money? Well, all right, we're calling you how much you want. Where was Mr. Allaha then? Where was he when the business community was complaining that this new methodology actually worsened the situation with respect to the Forex shortage? And we had the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce having to write to the minister and write to the central bank complaining about the challenges that they were experiencing in getting foreign exchange to pay for their goods, to import their goods into the country. Since 2013, the problem started in 2012. They wrote into it 2013, 2014. In 2015, they wrote again, complaining about the issue. Where was Mr. Allaha then? He didn't know about abject stupidity of commercial bankers then. No, because between 2010 to 2015, the banking sector was perfect. There was the banks weren't digging out the eyes of the average citizen. No, that only started on September the 9th, 2015 and continued until April 28th. Now that they're back in office, it stopped. And Mr. Allaha, that's how it works, right? Because when you're all in office, everything is perfect. Trinidad and Tobago is a veritable utopia. No issues, no problems, everything good. Everything good. But I continue. So Dr. Rowley would have responded to that nonsense and so on, right? He would have explained that he said he's a shareholder and customer at First Citizens. I have only engaged in normal banking procedures here and there and have received the kind of treatment I get at other banks in the country. First Citizens is not the only bank that offers private banking and personal services, and he continued with respect to that. But Mr. Allaha must understand that banks operate as what is called an oligopoly, right? There's just only few, about 5 to 7 banks that we have in Trinidad of that nature, commercial banks. And so therefore, they are the ones who dictate the pace. They are the ones who dictate the pace, okay? So when they come together, there's an association called BAT, the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and they will sit with their representatives and they will discuss things so that no one bank has a competitive advantage over the next. So their rates would be more or less in line with each other and so on. It's a fair game. Everybody have their customers. They might have little sales and little promotions every now and then to try and encourage customers to come over. But by and large, that is how they operate. All right? So to have a minister who come out from nowhere, that Camel plucked from obscurity and put him in the parliament, in the Senate, and made him leader of government business in the Senate, and now all of a sudden he have more to yap and refer to career bankers talking about abject stupidity of commercial bankers. Well, let's see you all fix it. Let's see you all fix it. Because in the 2020 manifesto, the National Economic Transformation Plan, one of the things that they had proposed to do was to instruct, their words, the central bank, to increase deposit rates, to increase the interest rates that people are getting when they deposit their money into the banks. Right? Because again, populist strategies in an attempt to get votes to say, look, we standing up and we defending the small man against the bankers. But then, in doing that, where the banks getting the money from to pay the higher interest rates? The banks primarily make money from loans, interest from loans and the spread. So if you want us to pay higher interest rates, deposit rates, then they're going to have to increase their lending rates so that they could make, because the banks don't want to impact their spread, right? Their profits, because their first order of business, their first obligation is to their shareholders. Now, there's nothing stopping any customer from being a shareholder. So you could benefit from dividends and you could also benefit from interest rates as well. But the bank's first obligation is to their shareholders. And if it is that the government uses economic policy to influence the interest rates that banks offer, then they have to find a way to generate that income without impacting their bottom line. And what you do, you increase the cost of your services. You increase your lending rates. When you increase your lending rates, what goes up? Mortgage rates go up as well. The rates that people pay on loans. So you want to buy a car, and now you have to pay a higher installment because the interest rate went up. So you had your deposit, your down payment, your 10% or your 15% for your car. And then they come now to tell the banks that you have to increase deposit rates. And the banks decide, they come together and they're going to increase their interest rates, the prime lending rate. So it's more expensive to borrow. So the amount that you are going to be paying, your monthly installment goes up. And in order to remain within your DSR, your debt service ratio, they tell you either have to make a bigger down payment, right? So your payments your monthly installments would remain within your DSR, or you just had to try and get a little side hustle to increase your income so that you could afford and qualify for the loan. But that is UNC economics for you, right? And the man who played a significant role in the creation of that document, I understand, is now the Minister of Finance. I keep saying a Form 4 economics student could do better than Tanku. This man just have a qualification. But anyway, I'm not good. Let me be a little charitable to my parliamentary colleague, right? A little bit charitable. So Mr. Abisi finds herself in this conundrum here. And again, the incompetence of this government shows. So Mr. Swarat Singh, it seems Minister Swarat Singh is the new hatchet man, so he's just going around and demanding that people resign with immediate effect. Who else is on the chopping block? Well, probably in this week's episode of Trinidad is not a real place, we will find out. Right? But they're just going around and just getting rid of people, just so. No continuity. So you have somebody who has been in a position leading, who has garnered respect and so on, have a particular plan in place to treat, and then you just come and get rid of that person and bring somebody else, and they have to start all over again. They are not concerned about the impact that this has on the health of the organization. They're not concerned about the message that sends to the international community about Trinidad and Tobago. And is Trinidad and Tobago a stable place to invest? Because when you can have successful CEOs and company heads just being gotten rid of, just like that, with no plausible reason. We saw Mr. Keskula, who was the former CEO of Heritage. Well, he would have resigned, and we could only assume, well, now, anytime we just see people resigning, we have to question, did they really resign, or did they have a conversation with Hatchetman Swarat Singh? Going forward, anytime you see any company head, state enterprise head resigns, we're not talking about the board here. These people were not hired because of political affiliations. Mr. Halliday was the former CEO of WASA, Mr. Keskula, all of these people would have been, would have applied for the job based on the advertisement. They would have gone through the process of being vetted. They would have gone through the process of being interviewed, being shortlisted, and so on. And then a decision would have been taken by the board to hire them. So this is not no political hires. The government had no hand in that. So when I see UNC supporters talking rubbish, well, there's a new government and you had to get rid of all them PNM people. These people, Mr. Keskula wasn't Trini. He can't vote here. So all you get is nonsense about political and political. Absolute rubbish. The man was doing a very good job. But when it is that people like himself, who would have left his country of origin to come here to do a job and was doing a damn good job of it, and then you have, in the future, when the government puts out advertisements looking for persons, people had to think twice to go to Trinidad. But don't do that now, because you ain't sure how long you're going to last there. I can just bust people through just so. And when they do it, this current administration, they're not just firing you, they're not just asking you to resign or letting you go. They decide that they're going to sully your professional reputation that you would have taken years to build. So even locals who might be living abroad and who might be inclined to come back will say, me? Well, forget that. They're not about that life. This is your government. This is your government. Sabotaging at every turn. Getting rid of qualified people and putting a set of lackeys who don't know the ARSE from the elbow in management, but just put them there. Vanessa Kusi, wife of one of the divers. What she know about running the board of Plebdeco? What could she contribute? But anyway, I don't know. Let me leave that there. Let me left that there. Looking at the time. See, I need to go and hand out stuff. So, the Minister of so just get this here. The Minister of Local Government, Rural Development and Local Government announced at the post-cabinet press briefing last week, herself and Minister Zakuru, they were the only two there. I don't know where the rest of the people were. Prime Minister wasn't there. Let me not do that. Right, so the Prime Minister wasn't there to answer questions, which Priya Bihari, who is, let me not accuse Priya of anything. Right, Priya would have asked the question, where is the Prime Minister? Where is the Minister of Finance? Where is the Minister of Homeland Security? We have questions for them. But to listen, Khadija to come and talk about the government putting together an interministerial committee to look at developing a policy for gated communities. Because in the absence of a solid plan to treat with the crime situation, if and when this state of emergency comes to an end, and this is the only thing that they're pointing to with respect to the current crime situation, right? So they're saying murders down, this crime down, that major crime down. Why? Because the state of emergency is in play, but you can't keep a whole state of emergency forever, because eventually they're going to have to come to Parliament and with an extension that would require the support of the opposition, which more than likely they will not get, because if they can't provide us with cogent reasons as to why there is need for an extension of the SOE, then we would have to consider whether or not we intend to give them our support, right? So they have no other plan, had no plan, have no plan, and probably not going to have any plan. So in the meantime, while they're trying to develop a plan, so we've gone from walls, gates, cameras, to dogs, panic buttons, state of emergency. So right now they're still fumbling, trying to feel around. Then we have, of course, the standing ground legislation, the intended legislation to come to make it easier for law-abiding citizens to acquire firearms. But nothing to stop the crime situation. Only reactionary. Nothing preventative. People voted for you all, those who voted for you, expecting that you all would come and treat with this, so there would be a reduction in crime. Not a reduction brought about by a state of emergency. That outside of a state of emergency, that the numbers that we are seeing now can continue because you have certain policies in place that is keeping the criminal element at bay. They move Rajai Ali from maximum security prison and send him down Tetron. And now we're hearing that even in Tetron, that he is able to communicate to the outside world and plan stuff. So you're moving from one spot to another one where you told us was safe, but yet still he is able to communicate with outside. So if even Tetron not safe, if even you can't control his ability to communicate with the outside world from Tetron, I mean, come on. What does that say? That, by never a dull moment with these people, right? So they came with a ruse. Let me get this here. They ain't fooling them. They can't fool me with that nonsense. Yes, so let me get this here. She posted there. Right. All of them just posing. Right. Posers, that's all they are. So, right. 1 second, let me just get this here. Right, you know what? Let me check here. I see the trolls have finally come on to YouTube, but I don't have time today to deal with you all. Oh yeah, to add to the list of people they got rid of too is CMO, Chief Medical Officer Roshan Parasaram, who would have played a pivotal role in the health sector during COVID. Remember, they said that the current Prime Minister, would have described him and his team as state-sponsored murderers. Well, Mr. Parasaram has been on leave for quite some time since his government came into office, and we have no idea when he's coming back. But again, they're just about sullying people's professional reputations. Just give me 1 second here, folks. Let me just find this. Where is it? So basically realize that, right? That's all they're about, right? This is all that they're about. Stunting. When they should be doing the people's business. Yeah, we're so afraid. Our lives are at risk. Mr. Padarat, his life is at risk. He, Khadija, and Sturge. Yeah, but he sit down among the crowd, ordinary people. He's not concerned that somebody could be sitting right behind him with a knife or something to take him out. Yeah, but he's so afraid. That's all they could do. Stunting. Anyway. So. Right. All right. So what I was trying to find was just this article on. Right. Let's know. I'm not seeing it. So, yes. Government is moving closer to introducing a policy that will allow communities to apply for gated status as a measure to protect themselves from crime. In its general election manifesto, the UNC had proposed this move as part of a strategy to address crime and enhance security. Speaking at the post-cabinet news briefing yesterday, Rural Development and Local Government Minister Khadija Amin said an interministerial committee has been formed to draft the policy for this initiative. This is in keeping with the UNC's position on stand your ground legislation. Stand your ground does not only mean owning a gun and being able to defend your home with force, it also means standing your ground and protecting your community. The committee has not been given a deadline for completion. Amin said its job would be to examine all legal avenues and approvals required for communities, residents to come together by consensus, and the agencies that right. So this is just a ruse. I don't know who they're trying to fool, but the timing of this for me is very interesting, because on Thursday last week, I was invited to I remember our corporation had the civic awards at one of the community centers in my constituency, and I was invited as the member of parliament to bring remarks. And on my way to the community center, what did I see? As I told you all, I have two UNC ministers living in my constituency, Khadija Amin and Mr. Roger Alexander, who is the Minister of Homeland Security. Mr. Alexander lives in one of the HTC developments in my constituency. He lives in a townhouse. When I was campaigning and I went into that compound, one of the things that the residents in there asked me for was to have the compound gated, because they said that they would have been advised when they would have gotten those properties by the HTC, and part of their mortgage payment would go towards developing or making the community gated. And so they said they were paying this money and nothing has been done, and they reached out to HTC and whatnot, and the HTC just said, well, that is your funds and so on. In fact, when I walked inside there, I remember, serves me correctly, political leader Penny Beckers would have walked with me, and as former Minister of Housing, she was able to explain to some of the residents who raised the issue what were the challenges that the HGC was experiencing with respect to that. So I'm heading to the event, and I noticed that Mr. Alexander's compound is in the process of becoming gated. So they already put up the gate for the exit, and the posts for the entrance were being cast at the time. So I imagine that it would be cured and dried probably by tomorrow or so. And so the workmen can come back out this week and install the entrance gate. Now, I am vexed. That's one less thing for me to have to deal with, right? Because we did write to the HGC on the matter, and the response that we would have gotten from them, well, it's on their list of things that they have to address, and several communities and so on. But I want you all to see how much they care about Ole, right? Because Alexander living in there, he has security. Don't forget that, he has a security detail. So he is well protected. His family is well protected. His name is not on the list of government ministers on whose lives we heard bounties were placed. There's 3 ministers, Sturge, Khadija, and Padarat. So Johnny Bravo is supposed to be good. But the HGC has been able to overcome all hurdles and are now in the process of making his compound gated so that he and his family could be safe. And well, by extension, the residents inside there as well would also be safe. And I know I would have told you all during the campaign when I walked there, it would have been reported to me that there were a couple carjackings inside there. A couple of persons would have lost their vehicles. And at that time, Mr. Alexander was a senior police officer and could offer no comfort, could offer no strategy, could offer no policy on addressing that. In fact, one of the residents who lost their vehicles told me, having called the police when his vehicle was stolen, probably took the police a couple of days before they came to interview him and so on. All right? All the while, Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander, residing on the compound, police, he's a senior officer, no increased police patrols on the compound, nothing of the sort. All that he did, based on what was reported to me by the councillor, was that in the chat, because the councillor has a chat for all the streets and so on and developments in her constituency, in her district, on the chat, the only advice that Mr. Alexander could have offered them was to be a little more vigilant and you need to be a little more wary of your surroundings. If you see people who looking suspect, we don't know in it, just to be more careful and so on. Nothing, no plan, no strategy from the police. Well, they're going to send increased patrols, they're going to set up a sting operation. Nothing. In fact, one of the residents would have told me just beyond the perimeter wall, there was an open lot of land there, plenty bush, and efforts had been made by CPEP to cut the bush, but apparently it was being used to hide narcotics in the bush there, and so persons were afraid to go and so on. But again, nothing was done. This is what was told to me. So now, Mr. Alexander, right, the state is putting things in place to secure him, his family, his household. So no home invasion by he, all right? No home invasions by him. Meanwhile, right behind that development is another HGC development with townhouses, almost identical to the one that Mr. Alexander lives in. And guess what? There is no activity taking place to put up any gates, any walls, or the like to protect them. Why? Because Mr. Alexander does not live in there. And I guess he doesn't have any family living in there either. So the folks in that HGC development, which is just right across the road from the one that Mr. Alexander lives in and is, by the end of this week, should be fully gated, solved, nothing for you. The government that so loves you and cares for you and is concerned about your safety couldn't tell you, work my way here, what, since all you're working on this one time, come and do this one too one time now. Couldn't do that. They're already there. Might as well. They couldn't get 4 because I saw about 3 men were casting the post and stuff. You couldn't get another 3 to just come and do the same thing in this development right behind. Man, nah, it's just a set of plebs living inside it. Okay, no biggie. To hell with them. Right? Walls, gates, cameras, dogs, panic buttons. Mr. Alexander is safe. Good for you, sir. Good for you. We're glad that you and your family are safe, and of course, the other residents on the compound, who I'm sure are very happy as soon they will have a gated community. All right, as I said, I ain't vexed. It's one of the things I could scratch off of my list of things to do as member of parliament. But I'm just saying, if you all really cared about the citizens, that you wouldn't just do it because the minister live in there. No. You take into consideration, because in that vicinity, there are a number of HTC developments in that vicinity that also require being gated. But that's not a priority for this government. No, they can wait. But the one Mr. Alexander living in, no, that cannot wait. It must be done. We found the money. We're going to do it. He is safe. Protect them. Well, let's talk about, PNM care about the poor people and they care about the citizens, because Rowley has security and Stuart Young has security and Hines has security and all of that. So who dead, dead. And Rowley say who dead, dead. So they may care when people get killed, but them safe and their family safe. Well, Alexander have security now. Rowley don't have any security. Stuart Young has no security. Hines has no security. Who has the security? Kamala has it. Alexander has it. Pararat has it. Khadija has it. Sturge has it. I don't know who else. They didn't have that many ministers under the Rowley administration with security, protecting them and their families. But the UNC supporters had an issue with that. Hines, Rowley, and Young. They all had a big problem with that. They are security detail. But now, you have multiple ministers with security detail for them and their family, costing taxpayers money. But all you only see in taxpayers' money spending in Eddie Hart grounds. And you only see in taxpayers' money spending by the Port of Spain City Corporation to hold an event to provide the citizenry with some level of activity to recognize and to celebrate the country's 63rd year of independence. You only 63 once. Right? So you can't come next year and say, well, we didn't celebrate 60 years here, so we'll come next year and celebrate it. It don't happen that way. But all of you hypocrites who had an issue with who had security, was one of the things Pasabi Sessa spoke about when she became Prime Minister. Fluff want to tell you who had state housing and all who had security, and they're doing a thing and they want to find out about who had security and all this kind of rubbish. Yeah? Well, taxpayers' money spending, so Zanda could be safe. So he don't have to worry. Imagine 2 o'clock in the morning, you lie down in your bed with your wife, and 3 masked men come and kick down your door with guns, and they come to rape your wife and rape your daughter. Imagine, he don't have to imagine 10 o'clock in the night, he lie down home watching a movie with his family, and 3 masked men come and with guns come and kick down your door and come to rape his wife and rape his daughter. He don't have to worry about that. No, because he has security detail, and now he has a gated community. But we will put together a ministerial committee so that we could, an interministerial committee, so we could come up with a policy so that in time to come, others could enjoy the sense of safety and security that Mr. Alexander feels, or will soon feel when he goes to bed at night, he and his family. But surrounding communities, HUC communities, the hell was all there. The hell was all there. Right across the road on the other side, at the front, there's another HTC development taking place there where they're building houses. And it's very easy for them to make that a gated community. Just put up a wall around the perimeter wall and an entrance. Very easy. I see nothing being put in place for that. That's not a priority. And even when he demits office as Minister of National Security, Minister of Homeland Security, sorry, I don't think they're going to come and say, well, we're taking down the gate. No. So he will continue to enjoy gated community status. Well, assuming that he's still living there at the end of his tenure as minister. You know, let him enjoying the perks of office. Right? So that might be beneath him. I just say. But I guess the fact that they're putting up the gates probably suggests that he intends to remain there for some time to come. Okay. He's minister. McDonald Bando is saying with technology they are not too safe. It have drone and fancy car system can be hacked. So true. In fact, here how the dotishness in this, right? So how the community is set up. So right now, when HDC would have constructed that development, so there's some fencing. So they have fencing at the side, there's perimeter fence all around. The only thing that wasn't done was that they didn't put up the gates. So, but the fencing is not really fencing, right? That fence not really fencing. It's just a low BRC fence that they have running behind the properties, those that are to the exterior, to the road, which includes Mr. Alexander's as well, right? And several of the residents, what they would have done, there was a wall, part of the fence where there's a wall and then there's a fence on top of the wall. So some of them decided to break the wall and extend the backyard, and they put a gate, right? And then they put a piece across the drain, because there's the road, a big drain, and then the development. So some people decided to break the wall, put up a gate, and then put a slab over the drain so that they can have access. So if anybody wanted to access his property from that side, all they had to do is to just walk up to the back gate and jump. And it ain't that tall, right? It's not that high. Just jump it. You know, they could probably, if they lift their foot high enough, if they're tall enough and can lift their foot high enough, they're across. We're putting gates in front. So can we then assume that the next step would be to take down the fence and put up a high wall? Because otherwise they don't do that. The front gate isn't really making sense, even except that it could work in terms of deterring cars being stolen. Because even somebody come and they hotwire a car and they still have to get through the gate. So if the gate is closed, they can't get out. So they don't really come on that compound, right? So they will go elsewhere where there is no gate. But otherwise, that but that's your government working for you, working for themselves first and you after. So Mr. Alexander's compound is the template that the interministerial committee could use. So they say, well, hey, let me go up by Roger and see how they do the gate there now. Yeah, so we can see if that could work for the other developments. Yeah, they put up gate by Roger. He's a gated community. Now we go by him and we can have a little beverage after. When we finish doing the inspection, we can just go inside by him and have a beverage before we head back out. Your taxpayers' money. But all of the so let me see here. So I'm seeing, right, Slimy Show is saying, I don't see this as a issue you should be addressing. Why not? Why not? As I said, I have no issue really with it from the perspective that it's one of the items that was requested of me by the residents that I could tick off the list. But my point is that if you care about the citizenry, you don't take care of yourself first. As like a parent, your children hungry, right? And you went out and you buy a bread and you come back home and you say, well, I will eat first. And if I have anything left over, I will give it to the children. And all of them sit down there with a hungry mouth watching you eating and drinking, right? And every time they think, yeah, you go down and get, hold on, just now. Right? And when you full, you taken care of, whatever is left over your hand, and I say, let's share up that is. See how they can make that do. Is that how you operate? So for you to say this is not an issue to be addressing. But I'll tell you something. Persons who live in the other communities nearby, who are my constituents, is an issue for them. And when they see gates going up there and coming to my office, or calling my office, or sending me correspondence on Messenger to ask me since the agency doing it there, when will their community be getting it? And I have no answers to give. It is an issue for me to address. All right? It's an issue for me to address as the MP. And that is what I have to deal with, because when they do things like that, they create problems for me. Because the resident's not going to go across there and say, well, we come to see Mr. Alexander to find out if he could tell us when our community will be getting gates just like this one. Me, I'm the one they come into. So it's an issue that I have to address. Okay? So if you think it's not an issue to deal with, let me tell you, it's an issue to address. And I'm seeing, right. Well, that might not be an important topic for you, but it is an important topic since this government has made the issue of crime fighting a big topic. And number one topic. And since the government is putting an interministerial committee in place to treat with the issue of gated communities. And if you see nothing wrong with the minister taking advantage, because I'm certain that the fact that that community is being gated has everything to do with the fact that the minister lives inside there. All right? And it's not that difficult if you're there. So if 6 months from now, nothing is done with the other areas, and then people come back to my office to ask me again to intervene and to write to the HDC and to inquire when would their community be gated, what am I supposed to tell them? Yeah, but we see this one, so what? I tell them, go and ask Alexander. Can't be serious. And Priscilla is right. Priscilla is saying you could address those issues and alive. We're always waiting for someone else. Be the difference you want to see in the world. Exactly. But you see, the problem is the things that you all consider to be trivial. Right? The things that you all consider to be trivial. It might not be important to you because you don't live there. But to the people who live in the other HUC developments in the immediate vicinity, it's an issue for them. Their safety matters. Their safety matters, and they shouldn't feel that they are second-class citizens to those who are living on the compound where the minister lives. They shouldn't feel cheated because those persons who are living happen to be fortunate to be living on the same compound where the minister lives, and now they, who have been waiting just as long as these folks, and some of them not even as long, because that development that Mr. Alexander is in is of more recent vintage than the one behind, right? They have been waiting longer for their gate and have not been able to get it. And they face the same risks. The same risks. So when that compound now is gated, where do you think the bandits who want to steal cars, where do you think they're going next? Well, this one, car dealer, this one. So target them. We go in there. Right? And when that happens, they come into me to deal with the crime situation in the community. Because when they call the police, they're not coming fast enough. If they come at all of these are issues. The list of issues is far too long for me to give you all right now, of the things that I have to be dealing with on a daily basis. I went to the grocery this morning just to pick up a few things. And the amount of people that stop me with issues, right? The amount of people, as soon as I walk into the grocery store, right? So the staff, a couple of the staff members had an issue. They brought it to my attention. I tell them, okay, I will address it. And I walked and I met a guy. He talked to me for about a few minutes. And then I went and as soon as I walked, I met another guy. And while I'm talking to him, there were a couple other people who recognized me and who were just waiting, mulling around, waiting for him to finish talking to me so that they could talk to me as well. All right? So whether I have an issue, because I signed up for this job. But I appreciate the things the suggestions that they have on how I could better suit them. So just making that point. So I don't only hear from people on office day. People see me wherever on the road, in the grocery, in the market, wherever, and it's an opportunity for them to air their grievance, and okay, I take it. I take their point, right? So just making that right. You want me to talk about Kamala embarrassing, but I already spoke about that. I spoke about Mrs. Prasad Bissasa's position that she took and how she has taken a very abrasive hands-off approach with respect to CARICOM. But this is not new for Mrs. Prasad Bissasa in her first incarnation as Prime Minister, when she would have indicated to CARICOM that Trinidad and Tobago is not an ATM. When we would have had the hurricane that would have passed through and would have devastated a couple of countries, and everybody else was reaching out to assist these countries, and Mrs. Prasad Bissasa made them know in no uncertain terms that any assistance from Trinidad and Tobago would be conditional. We will help you, but one hand can't clap. So our workmen had to come and do the work, and the material has to come from us. So they look for money. We will send people and whatnot so that we could benefit too, right? When it is that Dr. Rowley was prime minister and the hurricane passed through Dominica, I think it was in 2017 or thereabouts, and Dr. Rowley would have um, appealed to citizens to open their hearts and their doors to some of the school children, not adults, school children from Dominica whose schools were destroyed and was asked, and they could come to Trinidad, and for that period of reconstruction and so on and recovery, that they could probably attend schools in Trinidad. They had an issue with that. Why Rowley opened me door? When he opened the prime minister, let them stay there. This was the talk. So now that Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa is saying there has been no consultation with CARICOM on this latest development, and there will be no consultation with CARICOM, says a lot. Says a lot. And hence the reason she's not inclined to attend any CARICOM heads of government meeting. Well, you want to talk to her? Come to her. But she will not be going to you. That is why Prime Minister of Grenada, Mr. Mitchell, was in Trinidad a couple of days ago and had to go to the diplomatic center to speak with her. And that is how it's going to go. The same diplomatic center that they told us was uninhabitable, unusable, required $5 million in order for it to be usable. So is it that the government found that $5 million? Don't know where they found it from, because we gave no such approval during the media review of any $5 million to do any work on the diplomatic center and prime minister's residence. But we see it's being used frequently. So where did that money come from? Question is being asked, and it's a legitimate question. So what are the priorities of this administration? What are the priorities? Can't be the people, because the number of persons losing their jobs daily is going up. It's not coming down. And citizens want to know, the vulnerable citizens want to know, when are they going to get back their jobs? If they're going to get back their jobs. Because they're looking for work, and it's difficult to get it. When you have to fight up with 11,000 other persons just like yourself who are in the same job, when you would have organized your life around this, and this is what you know, and to have it taken away from you in such a manner. So all the time they boasted. And the PNM saying that the people struggling and they're suffering and they don't have money to pay, but they still getting paid. You gave them a salary for July. We are in September. Did they get money for August? This critical period? Did they get any money? No. But you know what? Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa's 2 salaries went into her account last week. Her prime ministerial salary and her salary as member of parliament for Siparia went into her account last week. Does she need it? The state takes care of most of her needs as is part of her compensation package. So I'm pretty sure when all of that money went into her account last week, it would have met the money that would have gone to her account the month before and the month before. Right. So now they all beg, they're giving out school bags and giving out snack bags and so on. What's going to happen when school opens? What's going to happen then? When I have people coming to my office asking when they pay in the book grant, because I applied for it. Some parents applied for it and don't know if they're getting it, because they've had no correspondence from the state as to whether or not their application was successful. So they just sit down there in a corner twiddling their thumb and hoping that they were successful. This government hasn't even had the courtesy and the decency to tell the people, yes, you got through, or you didn't get through. Some parents are sitting there hoping, oh gosh, I really hope this thing comes through before school opens, so at least I could buy 1 or 2 books. I could buy maybe 2 shirts and a pants until money come and I could buy more. And they call in my office, they sending me messages on Messenger asking me if I could find out when the book grant will be paid. I don't know. Government say that it will be that they give out some 5,000 and some already, and they're going to give out another how many thousand by the 5th of this month. But people don't know if they qualified, if they're getting it or not. So they sit down and say, well, they're still giving out. And then when the time passes and you realize they ain't getting nothing, so I didn't get through then. You were hoping that you got through. So the little bit that we are doing to try and help these people. So I just making the point. So some of you all don't understand. I mean, it's every day I hear the cries of these people. Every single day. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Some of the things I know you're going to come and tell her here. but people really have it. Sometimes when these people come to me and tell me their situation, it takes a lot for me not to break down. When you hear their situation, one woman came last week to collect school bags for 2 of her kids. Right? She has 2 children, and she would have adopted the 2 sons of some family member who on drugs. So she adopted the 2 boys. She's sending them to school, and she just came to collect school bags for 2 of her 2 kids, and she fight up with the boys. And she's telling me that her family put her out from where they were living, and now somebody else gave up permission to put up something on their land. So she said, we put up a little, you can tell she don't have much education. So she said, well, we put up a little 1-room thing, and so is me and my 2 children and the 2 that we take in, and my husband. But my husband does get a little work now and again, and you know, but we really trying to make little ends meet. I said, and what about you? Are you working? She said, well, no, well, I was working CPEP and I lost my job now. So she said, well, we don't have current and we don't have water, but I don't really need the current. I just asking if we could get the water, because it's real hard and we need the water. You know, we have a line on the road, and if we could get a little connection, but we don't need the current. We could do without that, because we can't afford to pay no light bill. She's telling me this, and every now and again, you know, she would break down, and then she did, and I try and it's an emotional thing. I can't relate to that. But people have it hard out there. And all she wants, she said, is just water. She said, because it's tough. The water situation is tough. And that's all she wants. She don't want no electricity. Now, the 2 boys will probably get laptops when they go to school. They could eat the laptop. When they come home, they have no electricity. How are they charging it? They have no internet. How are they using it? But the government giving laptop, yeah. And we clapping and we applauding that. But they can't use it when they come home. It is of no use to them. So it's when they go to school the next day and find the plug and where they're plugging it in. All right? So everybody has to know that they don't have electricity home. And everybody have to know they don't have, yeah. So they could only use it in school and make sure it charged properly before. But again, when they go home, there is no internet connectivity. And this was one of the questions during the media review when I asked the minister, you all are providing laptops. Would connectivity devices be provided as well? And this upstart, Mr. Tanku, had the audacity and the temerity to talk down to me and tell me about the government, about the last administration, this, that, and the other, and I want to come and ask about internet connectivity. It is a valid question. And it's not just me. I'm not asking for me. I don't have any kids. So it's not me asking for my children. I'm asking for the people that I represent who want to know. And when you have people like this young mother who is struggling, fortunately we had, and I must say thank you to Carol Myers and also to Claire Carrington. Carol would have brought a few hampers, food hampers for us, and we were able to provide the young lady with 2 hampers, right? And also to provide her with a grocery voucher, because we know it could only go so far. And you're dealing with a family of her 2 kids, the 2 kids that she took in, and her husband and herself, right? So they need help. And we were able to provide her with that. And yeah, but how long that would last them, I don't know. But there's only so much that we could do. And to all those of you who continue to contribute to the constituency office and help us to be able to help these people, again, thank you all so much. Every little bit that you donate, it helps. To the persons who would have dropped off stationery and so on, the persons who would have offered to take a book list or 2, again, let me say thank you to Pat and others. It is greatly appreciated. As many as we can help, we will. But you all don't see this side of the job. This side, you all don't see. You only see the side that people figure it's so glamorous, and all them politicians and them and things. This is not an easy job. I just telling you all that. And you all figure that is a bed of roses and going in parliament, dressing up in suit and going in parliament and always so glamorous. No, it's not. That's what you all see. You all don't see what happens behind closed doors. When these people come and sit down in the waiting room and then they come in the office. Another mother came in, her husband just died. She came with the daughter to get the school bag. And she break down. Because she stand up by the door. And so I said, Mommy, how are you going? She said, not good. I said, what's wrong? And she started crying. And she said, oh, my husband passed away. And things tough. She's struggling, and the daughter is there. So you're taking care of mommy? She say yes. And mommy crying, and then she started to cry too. So I said, well, you know, you had to go to school and do well for daddy, but you had to help out mommy too, because the shit going on here tough. But that's just some of what I deal with every week, and not just me, my colleagues as well. And some of these USC, UNC MPs who are part of the government that have these people struggling today. And when people go to them, well, you know, we put on your name, but you don't have any work right now, and so on. That's what they come in and telling me. I don't work right now, and well, we will call you. And they keep going back week after week, nothing yet. We will give you a call. We will your name on the list. Get them back their jobs. Just talk about P&M corruption and P&M corruption. Give the people back their jobs. Simple as that. Find a way for CPEP to pay the people directly. If you need to appoint, if you want to keep the contractors away, find a way to appoint somebody, some supervisor or something. Find out who are the persons who are employed in each gang. You have their names. Call the people back in, give them back their job, and you appoint somebody to be the supervisor or whatever it is for these individual gangs and allow them to do the work. Because the work needs to be done. Because you're seeing the effects of it. High grass. People calling me again because the grass would want to CPEP used to clean it and so on. We don't get money for that. So we, just like these people who hoping to get back their job soon, we hoping that they get back their job soon as well to clean up the community and to cut the high grass that is really out of hand right now. And I don't know if it is some of these UNC MPs, if in their community don't have grass, if they just living in concrete jungles. And they're not seeing the grass, but it's not just grass that CPEP was cutting. Because I told you we have issues, garbage, strewn all over the place, and you could pick up the phone and call one of the contractors and say, listen, I need a little pull out here, you all could come. And they come in. They come in with a rake and they so on and they clean it up nice. Because let's face it, we are in a disciplined society and have a lot of nasty people who just throw their garbage indiscriminately and couldn't care. The stray dogs pass and burst the bag and all the garbage all over the street, and they couldn't care about that. CPEP used to come and assist with that. We don't have that facility anymore. So we have areas in the community, that in the constituency, that are looking terrible. And nobody to call for assistance. I'm going to call the Borough Corporation and tell them, hey, come on. It's not that easy. I'm sure some of you all experiencing that too. Right? It is unsightly. When I'm driving down the highway in the morning and I'm seeing all of this tall grass, what I'm accustomed to seeing when I drive down the highway are the CPEP crews cutting the grass. When I went to Panama the other day, and I'm amazed when you drive out to the airport and you're heading into the city, to the hotel, and looking at how well taken care of the place is, the grass well manicured and so on. Constant. But when foreigners come to Trinidad and Tobago now, when they leave the airport, as you swing out by Piaco lights and you're heading on the road, all you're seeing is tall grass. That's all. What impression does that give to them about Trinidad and Tobago? What? Are we nasty? That the government don't care? That's what they see it. For miles down the road, when normally grass would be low. But really quick to go about the P&M and this and that. This was never about the P&M. This was about the UNC had plans to come in and give the contracts to their people, and realizing that the P&M would have extended the contract, that they couldn't just end it. So they could have waited. If the contracts had not been extended, they could have waited till next year when the contracts expired, and they'll say, well, okay, we've decided that we're going to go with a new cohort of persons. But given the fact that the contracts were extended to 2029, I think it was, it put a spoke in the wheel. So they couldn't just get rid of the contractors just so. So you ended it. And I guess it didn't go as they had planned. And so now they're trying to figure it out. But Kamala Bustimak, she said her people, her supporters vexed with her and her government. Why? Because they were hoping that she would just come in and her government would just replace the so-called P&M ghosts with the UNC ghosts. The same people who talking about P&M corruption and how the URP corrupt and CPEP corrupt, they were hoping to engage in the same corruption that they condemn the P&M for. Who said it? Prasad Bisesa. But as she said, the mistakes that she made in 2010 to 2015, the same mistakes that for 10 years she denied. Yes, don't forget that. The same mistakes that she said was PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. Today, she's admitting. So all the things that Keith Rowley and the PNM was telling you about 2010 to 2015, that's lie. PNM lies. And they only want to make the UNC look corrupt, and it's not true. Take it to the police. Lies, lies, lies. Now you're coming to say that the mistakes between 2010 to 2015 will not be repeated, and you apologize. What mistakes? You told us everything was good. It was the PNM was lying for the last 10 years. The Piaco Airport scandal. Again, PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look bad. And when the evidence started to come out and you couldn't deny it any longer, you come to say, well, don't blame me. That was Pandey. That has nothing to do with my government. That happened under Mr. Pandey. What happened under Mr. Pandey? The smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt? Mrs. Pasabi says that. Threatening to bust people's head. Warning them, hey, I know what they're doing it. Right thing to get fired. But I will allow you. Fix it. Fix it. Okay, if you don't fix it. All right. You ain't gonna get a second chance. So you're already in it? Okay. I give you a chance before I bust your throat. Before I fire you. So it's worthy of being fired. But she ain't ready to fire people yet because it's too early. However, look. Every Monday morning is a different scandal. We'll see what scandal comes out tomorrow. This week. Can't do it like them. I keep saying the last administration was too boring. 10 years of boredom. Ministers just going to work and doing their job. No bacchanal, no scandal, no nothing. So they need to, apparently the electorate wanted a government to shake the place up now. You know? Turn up things. We need to keep your blood pumping every week. People buying papers again to read the fine print of what is happening. And nothing gets the opportunity to be fully aired because as soon as you start to get into that one thing, something else pops up. Yes, MH37 says more popcorn to buy and put down. That's very true. Stock up on your popcorn and your large Coke. It's only been 4 months. Right? Still have 4 years and 11 months to go. Yeah, 4 years and 11 months to go. It's going to get interesting. But there are other things to touch on, but I don't have the time today, folks. Said I have MP duties to perform, and I see they're constantly ringing on my phone to tell me they're ready for me. All right. Last scene is saying, when can the opposition do a no confidence vote and could it be effective? So we don't have the numbers for it to be effective. We could do it, but all that would do really is to provide us with an opportunity to speak in Parliament about the government's performance so far. But when it comes to the vote, they have the majority. So unless there are some members of the government who are willing to vote with us, which is not going to happen because everybody eating our food, we won't have a successful vote of no confidence, unfortunately. Priscilla is saying a capybara was spotted in the car park in the airport. Poor capybara probably seeing all this grass, this tall grass, and thought he was still in the bush. Not accustomed seeing so much grass in the airport car park. So yeah, he was disoriented. But where's this? Where's all this grass? I never see here before. This just came up overnight. But when the PNM was in office, at one point in time, some grass in the airport car park. Boy, if you hear them. Sarah is saying Kabla and them don't have any pride in this country. They're accustomed to animals eating the grass. She's saying the San Fernando mayor sent a crew to cut some of the main streets in Pleasantville. Yes. Kudos to Mr. Paris. San Fernando mayor, Mr. Paris. I think they've been trying to help some of the former CPEP gangs get work. Just imagine the event that was had in Port of Spain yesterday, there was pan on the avenue and so on. And you know, when they have these events, people will throw the cup and the whatnot on the ground, right? But the mayor and they would have gotten the corporation staff to come out and clean up the place, as is the norm what happened after Carnival and so on. You're going to have UNC supporters who have an issue with that. They're complaining about that. or people throwing the thing on the ground. This is a normal thing. And using that to say that for independence of PNM people is a whole fete and a wine and a jam. So what do you want them to do? Go and stand up on the pavement, hold hands and sing the national anthem and God bless our nation for a few hours? Or a select list of hymns? That's what they're supposed to do? Some of you are just ridiculous with your opposition. Just ridiculous. Just like to yap on social media because your comments make no sense whatsoever. But all upset about that. You deprive the people of what they are accustomed to. Oh gosh, allow them now. If you have a little something for them to enjoy. But no, they must put on long dress, long sleeve, shirt and pants and the Sunday best and go out with Bible on the arm, yeah, and go and stand up on the pavement and sing hymns all day. Look, it's me telling nonsense, yeah. Clinton Charles says stuff saying they have 4 years and more to go. They are leaving very soon. Clinton, from your lips to God's ears, or from your keyboard to God's ears. I mean, I wish it would be so. I really do. Because 4 months is too much. But knowing these people, and how they love money, they don't want to let go of that position at all. Right? It's just for them. It's about money, and it's about showmanship, and it's about they walk into a room and everybody stand up. Minister come in and minister this, and they love that. They love the walk out the building, and the Prado or the Fortuna or whatever is just waiting right in front of the door, and somebody stand up there with the door open for them to jump in the back seat. They love that. They love being called honorable. That's the things they love, the honorable minister, the attention that they get. That's what they love, and they don't want to let go of that. Dr. Rollis always say, don't fall in love with office. But them, this is an opportunity they've been waiting for 10 years, and they're going to grab on and hold on to it for their life. For their life. And the sad thing is that if they have to call an election, they are certain of at least 18 seats. Because you could do what you want to their supporters. They will not move. They will go out and vote still. They wouldn't do like PNM supporters and withhold their votes. They will hold their nose. The MP ain't do nothing. They moved Pararat from Princestown and they sent him to Couva South. Right? He was a non-performer in Princestown. When the news media went and talked to somebody residents, well, we don't see he don't do nothing. But if he had remained as Princestown, as the Princestown MP, they would have still go and vote for him despite the fact that they don't see him and he does nothing. They would have still voted for him. They put him in Couva South and they still went and voted overwhelmingly for him. So, and that's the difference between UNC supporters and PNM supporters. UNC supporters could be how vexed they want with the party leadership. When come time for election, they go out and cast the ballot for the same people who ain't doing nothing and who they can't stand and who they fed up of. But at the end of the day, it's about them being in office. Because they just can't stand the idea of the PNM. So the bigger picture for them, yeah, the UNC be in office. Don't mind they're not performing. Don't mind people lost their work. They don't care. Don't mind that the Prime Minister is taking positions that some people feel might jeopardize the country's security. But that's all right. They don't care. We go in and vote. But PNM people, you get them vexed. Yeah. Me voting. They ain't gonna vote for the UNC, so kudos to them for that. But when they vex to the party, let them fight up who want to vote, let them vote, but not me. I can't get them a vote this year. I vex. I vex too bad. And then when you don't vote, and the PNM is out of office, and you realize what Eric Williams said years ago, that the alternative to the PNM is chaos and confusion, and you have to deal with them for how many years? And the burden is on who to fix it? The 13 of us in the lower house. We are the ones that people look into to fix it and to get the party back into power. But when we host events as an opposition, you all don't show up. You all don't turn up. Right? And then what happens? You give the government and their supporters ammunition to come and laugh at the PNM. I said, look, they had big thing and look at is awake. You see the little bit of people that come out. That's why they go into these events to see how many people coming out to gauge how much support the PNM has. It could be a good thing you all don't show because they could assume that we don't have support and figure that, hey, the PNM is vulnerable. Maybe we have silent support. Maybe some of you all have forgiven the party and forgiven the leadership for whatever you think, whatever it was that caused you not to cast your ballot. But it doesn't change the fact that it's difficult to come from 13 to 21 when the other side, solid, they could say they have UNC strongholds. We can't see that. Labre and Point Fortin showed us that on April 28th. We PNM can't say we have any strongholds. And other than Trin City Maloney and Port of Spain North St. Anne's West, Church Young seat, really and truly, the rest of us skate through now. We didn't skate through because the UNC supporters came out, but it's because PNM people didn't. And some people are just hell-bent on, they want to be vexed for the full 5 years, or however long it's going to be. So in addition to doing what we have to do, we have to now try and win back that support. Some people not making it easy at all for us to do that. But we continue to do what we have to do. But we don't intend to rely on this government tripping over itself to get back into office. We intend to work to win back the confidence of the electorate. It's still early days yet, so we're still going to hear, well, you hush all your mouth, and where all was for the last 10 years, and when Rowley was doing this, all he wasn't talking. Yeah, we're still going to get plenty of that. But you're all free to talk, because it's a democracy, but we will speak. Nevertheless, because what this government is doing is absolute rubbish and nonsense. They have nothing that the supporters could point to and say, well, they do a good job. Most of the things that they've laid claim to for the last 4 months is stuff that the PNM would have been initiated under the PNM and is now starting to bear fruit. And they're shamelessly trying to take credit for things that they had nothing to do with. And the supporters, poor souls, trying to twist it, turn it, bend it, all how to say, well, yeah, well, it's because Kamala is the Prime Minister and it's because the UNC in power that this happened and that happened. Really? And when you all have nothing to crow about, is HYMC. Why the hell you? That's all we keep getting from them. The vocabulary limited to HYMC. Nothing else. Josephine said she can't take any more from them. I agree with you. Seychelles is saying only death would stop me from voting for the PNM. To make sure I'm dead, put some pineapple in front of my nose. If I wake up, I get a cough and vote for the PNM. Oh boy. I hear you, Clinton. But I'm not going to tell you. Kerry actually saying the PNM needs to assess the approach because from the outside looking in, the party is divided and it's not a good look. I hear that. It's not entirely so, but I mean, people are still hurting from the election, from before the election, but we're working on it. I can give you that assurance. But we need your support as well, right, to fix. So we have any public meetings. I think the next one is supposed to be in Stuart's constituency. He had eye surgery last week, so we would have had to delay his meeting, but hopefully soon the series of meetings continue, and we would like to see as many of you all come out to the meeting. I last seen us saying too much hubris and ignorance for them to understand its leadership will cause us to be limited and ineffective. Red Scorpion is saying, I can't understand how UNC supporters love a rainbow mantle. Well, yes. Yes. So, folks, I have to run. Annette Moses, telling executive. Duly noted, Annette. Duly noted. Roger O'Brien is saying it is a proven phenomenon in facilities management when drains curb vegetation and overgrown lots. There is always a propagation of invasive species that venture forward out of the normal habitat. So I guess he's referring to the capybara. And Yabo is saying PNM supporters are just as easily influenced by foolish people, the Eater Food crew. So true. Marlene is saying Mr. Benjamin, as Director of Social Protection, has been fired from health. Yes, she's referring to Mr. Hanif Benjamin being fired from the TRHA. It's about time. I wonder what Clyde Weatherhead has to say about that, because when Ayanna Webster Roy and I think Kelvon Morrison, they were calling for Mr. Benjamin to be removed given this situation, Mr. Weatherhead put out a post chastising the PNM for that, right, and saying the PNM is a lynch mob and all of that and so on. Well, Marlene Pantin is saying that he has been removed. I'm going to check Mr. Weatherhead page and see what he has to say. If the THA is a lynch mob too. Kathy Gale is asking, when is the meeting in Lupino Bonnet West? So I'm not too sure. I know the next few meetings, it's Port of Spain North St. Anne's West, followed by Diego Martin West, and then I think Trinity Maloney. But I guess that depends on if Camille is in a position to be part of the meeting. Ideally, we would want to have her there, but as you all would know, she is recovering from major surgery, and she's coming along. So, yeah. Steve Lewis is saying the 13 must come together, work out their differences, and heal the wounds from the defeat. And we are doing that, Steve. We're putting things in place to be able to do that. But again, we need the help of the supporters. We can't do it alone. We could create the environment and the opportunity, but people need to come out and tell us what you all want us to do. Because when we go on the walkabout before the meeting, we have been meeting residents, and we met. There was one guy last week when we had a meeting in Lavantil, East Mova. So we are on one side of the road talking to this guy, and a couple of the folks who were going ahead and calling out persons, they were engaging this guy on the other side of the street. And all I heard the man say, I never vote for that party. They could kiss me black. So where that come from, man? Yes, sir. In fact, he was talking to the MP's wife, the Christian Butcher's wife was engaging him in conversation. And just before he walked into his house, he said, he would never vote for the party and he could kiss his black behind. So some people just, I don't know. Yeah. Kerry Edgell is saying, I noticed all the social media pages that covered crime is now quiet. And that is very true, Kerry. A lot of people, Kerry, I am surprised, coming forward and willing to bend the knee and kiss the ring, to kiss Prasad Bissasa's ring. Right? Everybody's singing her praises and what a great job her government is doing. And the last administration would have done infinitely more than what she and her government have done in the last 4 months and didn't get that type of praise and didn't get that type of commendation. You have association heads and chamber, people from the various chambers of commerce and so on coming out and praising what? What? Everybody, you all hoping to get a piece of the pie? You just might wouldn't have any pie to share. These people don't have a clue what it is they're doing. Imagine Mr. Tanku talking about certain documents are still unavailable and missing and whatever it is. So he can't give a date as to when the budget would be. I was talking to former Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance and former Minister of Finance, Vishnu Danpal, Senator Danpal, on Saturday at the For Love of Liberty event. And he was telling me that is not how it works. The minister is supposed to indicate to the ministry a date, and the ministry will then get in gear and get things in place to meet that date. You don't wait until the ministry have everything in place and then you decide on a date. The budget must be read, debated, and passed no later than October the 31st. But these people don't understand how the thing's supposed to work, and they just whatever is whatever. and come in and talk a set of platitudes. All of a sudden, Mr. Tanku knows that it is because of the decline in the energy sector is why certain things happen. But when the PNM was telling them that just a few months ago, no, it's the incompetence of the government and who mash up the energy sector, and the government don't have a clue. That's what they were saying. But now that they are in charge, they are behind the wheel. All of a sudden, Tanku knows, yeah, it's because of the decline in the energy sector that this happened and that happened. Rubbish. Foolishness. See if I find this here. Let me just touch on this before I leave, because my phone going. As he continues to prepare the upcoming national budget, Finance Minister Devendra Tanku yesterday called on the nation to embrace the trials and forge ahead, while government remains committed to increase economic and social stability. Really? He goes on to say, we cannot do it alone, but with the solidarity of 1.3 million people, we are confident of making the right strides and stepping into a future that we help to shape. He said, Trinidad and Tobago's declining energy sector has led to stagnant growth, higher national debt, reduced spending, higher unemployment, and growing social issues. You hear that hypocrisy? All of a sudden, he now knows that it's the declining energy sector, but the PNM was telling you all that for months, for years. And they weren't willing to accept, no, that's just incompetence on the part of the government, or put us in office and we will fix it on day one. Now, they're creating the narrative. So when unemployment continues to go up, spending continues to be reduced, growth remains stagnant, debt continues to grow up, and social issues continue to grow, that you wouldn't go and say, well, the government is because of the government. No, it's don't blame us. It's not the government. It's because of the declining energy revenues. Under the PNM, it wasn't so. And then the last thing, the support of all citizens is key in navigating our nation through these difficult times. The economic decisions we make today will undoubtedly resonate for generations to come. And then he goes on to talk about tough decisions that would have to be made. When the last administration was telling you all that about tough decisions, when Dr. Rowley was telling you all about this, tighten your belt and it's going to be a rough 2 years or a rough 3 years, they had an issue with that. But now Tanku coming and telling you all the same thing. But you know what? The supporters don't blame the PNM, or the PNM mash up the economy. But when the PNM was trying to secure Dragon gas, so that the same energy sector that he tell you declining, so that it would get a boost, when the PNM was trying to secure Laura and Manatee, when they were trying to secure the Calypso field, when they were trying to secure all those other gas fields and so on, and they were being attacked. Oh, Rowley only want to be in cahoots with Maduro, with the narco trafficker Maduro, and Rowley and Maduro this, and Rowley and Maduro that. When they were talking about that, you haven't seen the bigger picture, right? But they're in charge. They're holding the reins of power, and we are just bystanders. But we will not be passive bystanders, all right? We will not be passive. So all who want to tell us to hush because we weren't talking for the last 10 years, you could take that and put it by the monkey for the nuts. Folks, we will chat again soon. Again, I keep saying I can't make any guarantees during the week, but certainly probably over the weekend. Natasha is saying, Lawrence, I'm really fed up with all these penny haters. We're not learning at all from the election loss, and I feel some of them really want to stay in opposition. Marlene Panton is saying, Tanku knew all of that, and they have a large cabinet of 11 to 13 persons on board. Waste of time. So true. There are at least 10 of them who are there who are just filling spaces, taking up over $700,000 a month in salary that could go to other things. But the supporters not seeing that, you know. No, they ain't seeing that. That people like Philip Alexander, people like Anel Roberts, who have time to spend 15 and 20 minutes 3-4 times a day doing live cussing the PNM when they should be doing the work that they are being paid for. But they have no work to do but collecting over $70,000 a month of your taxpayers' money for nothing, for no work. You know how many CPAP workers you could pay with that money? You know how many URP workers you could pay with that? But he wants to come and talk about how much school buy you could buy with the money that was spent there. And meanwhile, Last week he get paid. He got his salary as minister in the Ministry of Housing, and he got his salary as senator. 2 salaries went to his account last week. He good. His daughter books done by, school bag, everything ready. She ready to go come next Monday. But there are thousands of citizens in this country who cannot say the same. No salary went to their account last month. None. When the PNM demitted office in April, up until that point in time, they were sure every fortnight money in their account. Some people who still have jobs pay late every month. They don't know when they get their salary, have to be begging, and all kind of excuses coming from the ministers. Well, it was a glitch and it was a technical error and all kind of foolishness. Now they want to know all state enterprises who are the little kakada saved and so on. They want to know how much money you have, so they could rake and scrape everywhere to see how they could pay. But when Mr. Imbut used to be telling you all of the challenges that he used to face as minister to ensure that everybody get their salary at the end of the month on time in their account. So when Penny at the meeting last week would have said, well, you say Imbut stingy and Imbut this and that, but plenty all wish Imbut was still Minister of Finance so that you're sure your salary in your account at the end of the month. Come hell or high water, Imbut could say what he want. But you know, when you push your card at a certain date, money there. Now, you can't say that. Now, your hand shaking so and you're pushing, as you're pushing in the card, I'm going to go into the machine and you enter your 4-digit pin and you're waiting for it to come up. You're saying a final prayer, Lord, please, I beg you, when I press for balance inquiry, let me see my salary, please, please, and make this sanity cross 16 times before, and it come up on the screen. 13 cents. Minus $3. The last $20 that you had in the bank, they take it for service fee. Because I thought you could have get that to pay passage to go to work until tomorrow. Pressure. He's the project is saying they're not a cabinet, they're space saver, only taking up space. So true. I couldn't have said it better, Hazel. Let that be to say, imagine courts checking you now as if you're going to the IMF. Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Never a dull moment. And here we are, right? Christmas around the corner. Hopefully they'll get their act together. Otherwise, we had to seek some sponsorship to ensure that as many families as we can help have a meal on the table on Christmas Day. These ministers who have that worry, right? They don't have that worry at all because their tables will be laden. Money is no problem for them. Folks will chat. Yes, Natasha, 13 cents. Oh boy. MH37 say when the bad cannot end, let the worst continue. Tanko needs to go. He does. Lastly, I will not read that. All right? Why all so? I'm not reading that. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't get me in trouble, huh? Not me. You're most welcome, Agnes. Agnes Mondays here. So again, folks, thank you all for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your long weekend. Last year, I tell you, I not commented on that. That me, I don't know what you're talking about. No comment. No comment. All right. As an MP, I can only say certain things and speak on certain things. All right? Okay. Alliance versus saying of island finance. Yeah, all of these people who have the loans to pay. It's going to have an impact. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of loans that are going to go into default. People would have taken out stuff at courts and the chop pull up to take it back. People who would have taken these cash loans that courts offers, don't know how they're going to pay that back. But Emmeline is asking who replacing Tanku. Emmeline, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. People who could want nothing to do with this government. Let's see. Look, lastly, before you give me trouble, let me go ahead. Super C. In due course, that will be rolled out. All right, so stay tuned for the meetings, and more will be said. It's not just the political leader who will be articulating policy, but all members of parliament, 13 of us, in addition to the 6 who are in the Senate. So at these meetings, you will be seeing all of us speaking and our various areas of expertise. Those of us who serve as shadow MPs, we will also be speaking on the party's plans going forward to address the shortcomings of this administration. And stay tuned for the budget debate. I think all of us will be contributing, and we will be scrutinizing the budget, as they say, with a fine-tooth comb. And yeah, so we're not going to let them get away at all. So stay tuned. Oh gosh, Racine, you will get me in trouble. All right, not me. Tanku, she had done push Tanku under the bus already when he said that they were going to pay back. They were going to pay back the property tax, refund property taxes, and she said, "I don't know where he get that from. Maybe he could tell us where he get any money from." So since then, she knew that there was a money challenge, a money crunch. So that would be that'd be definitely a good idea. Kerry. So we'll chat again soon, folks. If not during the week, next Sunday. All right, so enjoy the rest of your long weekend. Have a productive week. And we will chat soon. They calling me.